Today I'm going to share tips on how to create a well-blended eyeshadow look. So the first thing I really like to do is start off with an eye primer. I have very oily eyelids, so unfortunately, I always have to use an eye primer if I want my eyeshadows to last. And this is one of the eye primers I love. This is by NARS. The other one that I really love and trust, and it lives in my kit, is the Viseart eyeshadow primer. So either of those or anything that works for you will work. I'm just going to apply this all over the eyelid. I generally do 3 or 4 dots like that, and then we'll blend it out. I'm doing more of a patting motion. Then once I've seen that everything is blended out, and then tend to go a little bit up towards the brow bone, and whatever's remaining on my finger, I'm going to also just swipe the bottom lash line with it. You can always see on the eyelid this provides like a matte base compared to here where I have my natural oil speaking through on the eyelid. So if I were to just apply eyeshadow on my bare eyelids, it is definitely going to crease in an hour or less. So a base for me especially is essential. I think another important part for getting a good blend is to have good quality eyeshadows. A brand that I have trusted for years is Viseart. Today I'm going to be using their Petite Pro Chou Chou palette, which was, I believe, a few years ago. But this is what the color story looks like. There was a silver right here, which again is in my kit. So that's the one missing. But today I think we're going to use these peachy warm tones on the eyelids, because I do want to show you that you can use color yet get a beautiful blend with it, not just with neutral tones. The third important step is to have good brushes. I can't emphasize this enough, and I think I'm going to make a separate video all about my favorite brushes. But for today, I think I'm going to be using the Refer brush, which is brush number 16, Wayne Goss brush number 20, so a smaller blending brush. You can see the difference in size. So depending on how big your eyelids are and how much eyelid space you have, you will change the size of the brushes. I may also go in with a flat brush, but I'll talk about it later. So first, starting off with the biggest, largest brush, I'm going to be using the second shade here. So you want to find something that's close to your skin tone. This, although we are going for a colorful look, is relative to all the other shades in the palette, close to my skin tone. I would say this is good for highlighting my brow bone, like a matte highlight. We will use that later, but I'm going to start off first with this. So something close to your skin tone, just a hint deeper. So with the brush, I'm not digging into the brush and getting and packing on the product in here. I'm literally doing a couple of dabs, that's it. So the tip of the brushes are coated with the eyeshadow. Because if I relax my eyes and if I were to do my eyeshadow like this, it's very difficult for me to work, and also half the eyelid will miss the eyeshadow, the part that's going into the crease. So I like to actually look down so that way the eyelid is stretched, and then start usually with my transition shade. I'm just going to swipe the shade back and forth, and you can see a little bit of definition coming in. Now again, this color is not very dark compared to my skin tone, but I just want a hint of color before I go in with some of the brighter shades. This is the shade that's going to peek through the oranges that we're going to use, so the coral shade. Just going again, just going a slightly higher as well towards the brow bone, but not on the brow. So like so. Now with that same brush, just going to lightly dab into the shade right here. So just once, because it's going to be quite light compared to my skin tone, so I don't want too much. Just going to lightly apply that the arch of my brows. You can see it's given a subtle highlight compared to this brow. Now, anytime you feel like this crease shade is not blended in, you can either use a translucent powder, so something like the Danessa Myricks Evolution powders, any face powder that you use, just dab lightly into that. So I'm just going to take the Danessa Myricks Evolution powder, lightly coat the tip, and just blend or diffuse at the edges of the shade. That's going to create like a very smooth blended look. I'm going to match up the other eye and be right back. Next, I'm using a flat brush. This is the eSIM W21, which is a natural bristle brush. I'm going in with this beautiful peachy coral shade. So again, I'm not digging in, literally doing a couple of dabs, and then the product is loaded. That's the beauty of a natural bristle brush. It is great at picking up powder products. So again, tap off any excess. Going to do is stamp it on the outer corner of my eye, slowly bringing it into the crease. Apply and blend. Going to bring this in about halfway in, half or maybe 1/3. Leave it like that. Going in with a small blending brush. This is the Wayne Goss brush number 20. Dipping lightly into the same shade. Now blending into the socket. So we're blending it with that previous shade, the yellowish shade we have in the socket. Also blending it here and right here where I have the primer pretty much. There you go, that creates like a smooth blend between the shades. And if you're in doubt ever and this you feel like looks harsh, go back in with that first shade, so the yellowish tone that we used, and just run it around the edges of the speech shade. So that's kind of softens it. Also another tip, especially if you have hooded or partially hooded like eyes like I do, is just relax your eyes from time to time, just to make sure that you can still see some of the eyeshadow when you're relaxing your eye, because we're not walking around looking like this, looking surprised all the time. So relax your eyes and make sure that the eyeshadow that you see here, at least on the top of the socket, you can see it even with your eyes relaxed. Next, with that same brush, I'm going to run the same shade along my bottom lash line, connecting it at the outer corner. Taking it about 3/4 of the way in. And also again, now that you can see that when you use a good quality brush, a good quality eyeshadow, the eyeshadow pretty much does its own work. I have very little to do. Next, I'm going in with this pink shade right here, using the same brush again. Applying it right on that outer corner, just to add a hint of pink right there. Blending it with that previous shade. And also applying some to the outer corner of the lower lash line, like so. Next, I'm just using my finger to go in with the shimmer shade. Looks like that. Just going to lightly pat it on the inner portion of the eyelid where we don't have any eyeshadow. If you have nails, feel free to use a flat brush. Again, the Eason brush we used is great for this. Going back into that small brush just to diffuse out the edges of these eyeshadows. You don't want any harsh edges. It might take away a little bit from the shimmer, but that's easy to fix. I do want a seamless blend between the shades, even if the colors are not something you would think would pair together, if that makes sense. Again, as a finishing touch, I'm going back in with that larger brush, taking some face powder, using the Laura Mercier yellow powder, just running it across the edges right here. Don't do this, it's just like an extra step for creating that smooth blend. You can see the difference from here to here. Just quickly go off camera, finish up mascara, add some blush and lipstick, and I'll be right back.